Hi, I'm back. It's Friday, the 5th of June. Now, is it just me, or does everything seem like a scam these days? It seems like companies and people are just trying to get money out of your pocket. One example of that is subscriptions. If you think about back in the day, you'd switch the telly on and you'd watch TV. Now, you had 4 channels, um, and there was limited content on there, but it was fairly good content. And then along came cable TV and Sky and satellite, and you had to start paying monthly. And then the new big revolution that came along was Netflix, which was fantastic. You know, you had all the films and series and a rich amount of content on that platform that you had available to you for quite cheap every month. And that's, I think a lot of people, including me, jumped on that bandwagon with Netflix, and it was great. But then along came Disney, Paramount, Amazon, Apple TV. Each one of those streaming services wanted $9.99 out of your pocket, or $5.99, or however much it was. And that was okay as well, because the content again was good. But it was spread across multiple streaming platforms. And sometimes even some of the series that you were watching, the first 2 seasons were on one streaming platform. And then if you wanted to watch the next 2, you had to subscribe to another streaming platform to watch the next 2. So, yeah. Then within those streaming services, they started introducing tiers. So you could have the light with some ads, or the normal with no ads, or the Max Pro and have 4K. And they're just trying to get more and more money out of your pocket for essentially the same service. And the same thing happens with tech, with software and with hardware. You know, back in the day, you'd buy a piece of software, it would come on a CD-ROM, you'd stick it in your PC, you'd install it, and it was yours. Now, a lot of them are web-based, and obviously on a subscription, and you don't own them. At any time, the company can change the terms and conditions, or they can just switch it off entirely. Same goes with hardware. We don't own anything anymore. Nearly every new device that we buy needs to have a connection to the internet. And the thing is, you've purchased these devices with money, but then you're also paying them with data. And that starts off with you have to create an account to use it. So they have your email address and any other personal information they try and get out of you to be able to create that account. And when you look at the things like smart TVs, a lot of people don't realize that these TVs are sending information back to the manufacturers as well, collecting data. What you're watching, when you're watching it. Even if you're using something like a Fire TV stick, or like me, an Apple TV, they're not just seeing what the TV's putting out as far as its internal systems, but also taking screenshots of the screen. So even if you are using an external device to watch your content, that's still being collected. I don't know. And then it goes on to the supermarket. Shrinkflation. I mean, things are getting more and more expensive as they are anyway. But they're not just getting more expensive. They're getting smaller. I don't know how many people have opened a packet of crisps lately. Like a normal one-person sized packet of crisps. You're lucky if you get like 15 crisps in there. It's ridiculous. And then you look at fuel. You go and fill up your car, and I know there's some difficulties at the minute with Iran and fuel prices. But when you think about it, nearly 50% of fuel price is tax. And you would think that the government would try to ease the forever growing costs for the population of this country by equaling it out with a tax reduction on fuel. But no. Because they are also in trouble because they don't have enough money to spend to pay for the services they're already trying to offer us anyway. If you look at the likes of the NHS. Have you ever tried to get a doctor's appointment lately? It's near to impossible. When you do get one, it's normally a telephone appointment, which in my eyes is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I've lived abroad for most of my adult life, and I've paid taxes in other countries. But in those other countries, as an example, Canada, the tax was fairly high. The property tax was sky high. But again, I didn't mind paying it because I could actually see what I was getting from those taxes. The roads were immaculate. The pathways were immaculate during the winter, and we got decent winters there. Like, we're talking a couple of meters of snow at some points. But the main roads would be cleared before you went to work. And by the time you came home from work, all the side roads and the neighborhoods roads would be cleared and they would be salted. So that was never an issue. All of the streetlights worked. All of the parks were immaculate. The schools were fantastic. The healthcare was great. They were developing new developments, creating housing, creating opportunities. But here in the UK, you're paying taxes, but you're not seeing a return. Like, the roads are deteriorating. The schools are rubbish. Teachers aren't getting paid enough. The police are non-existent. It seems to be getting worse and worse. And there seems to be this thing about, I don't know, everybody just seems to accept it in a certain way. I know there's a lot of tension around things that are happening in the UK, but there's a large amount of acceptance around it, which I struggle to understand. Maybe I just haven't looked into it enough here in the UK, but yeah, it's been a steady decline, I think, since the 70s. Yes, it's a steady decline. We're paying more and we're getting less. And every single company is trying to get money out of your pocket. As an example, you buy a printer, and I know a lot of people don't have printers these days. But if you buy a printer with like a printing ink subscription for the likes of HP, if you cancel that subscription, they will brick your printer. You've purchased a perfectly good device, which still perfectly well works, which has got still perfectly good ink in it, but it won't work if you don't continue with your ink subscription. Like, who the hell thought of that? Or companies changing the terms and conditions during a contract. We don't own anything. We just pay monthly subscriptions for everything. Now, and I think, I'm looking at my finances a little bit tighter these days because I'm not having a steady income coming in. But I challenge you to take a look at your bank statement and tally together how much money you're paying per month on subscriptions and look at that over a 12-month period. And I think you'll be shocked, absolutely shocked. And I'm not just talking about, the streaming services, but also software. I mean, I'm a bit of a tech nerd, and I used to have a Ring doorbell that had a subscription. I've got Amazon Prime, that's a subscription. Things like the printer is a subscription. Software that I use on my PC are subscriptions. Even when you look at things like AI, that's a subscription. It's just these very small, sort of like, on their own, don't sound like a lot, micro payments, you could say. But if you collect them all together at the end of the month, that's a big chunk of your money that's disappearing every month for things that you don't necessarily need, or where there's free alternatives, or B, where it's just companies sucking the life and the money out of you. And like I said before, we're not just paying with money, we're also paying with data. And that even goes for like supermarkets. So the supermarkets, they offer you these loyalty programs or your points cards. And I do not use them because then they know your name, your address, your date of birth, what you buy, when you buy it. They've also got your biometrics if you use the self-checkouts, because in every self-checkout there is a camera. It's just data upon data upon data. So you're paying twice for the products that you're purchasing. And that data that supermarkets are collecting is very important to them, especially now when they've introduced something called dynamic pricing and digital price tags. So theoretically, based off your shopping history and the data they've collected off you and the data they get from third parties, like your income, the average household cost, the average household income, house pricing, and things like that, they can theoretically dynamically change the prices for individuals within a shop for different products. So you could be paying more for certain products than other people. And this is something that's already happening. If you look at travel sites, when you're looking for flights or for trains or for holidays, the more times you search for a certain area or a certain country or a certain resort or flights to a certain place, every time you go back, the same price, the same flight or the same holiday or the same train trip has a different price. And sometimes that's not just based on the demand, it's just based on the fact that the companies are saying, haha, you're interested in getting this, so we're going to up the price a bit. Now, look, I've got nothing against companies making money, but it's how they're making it and also where the ownership lands with products. If I purchase something, I want it to be mine and I want to be the key holder to that product and not be somebody else be the master of that product to be able to switch it off and make it a brick because they've decided it's no longer of use to them as a company or they no longer want to support it. And also, the distribution of that money once it's been earned by these companies, like the pay gap between a normal worker in a company and the CEO has astronomically increased over the last 40 years. And that's why you see a lot of these CEOs now are billionaires, getting multiple hundred millions of pounds a year as a salary. And for what? I think we need some drastic change. And I think that's not just the UK. I think that's globally. Because the rich are getting rich and the poorer are being sucked out and they don't own anything. Yeah, so that's my whinge and my rant for the day. Just a few thoughts have been going through my head the last couple of days around this topic, especially when I'm looking at finances and realizing how stupid I am myself and how much money I'm paying on subscriptions. And for a lot of times, things that I don't even need or watch or use, or things that I've purchased and should be mine and belong to me, but they don't. Even hardware. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. If you want to hear some more of my rants and maybe some of the good things, please do subscribe. Give the video a like. Comment down below what your thoughts are. Tell me how much you're paying every month for your subscriptions and tell me about some of the products that you've bought but don't own. Anyway, see you in the next one, guys. Cheers.